Hi there, I'm Professor Juris, and I wanted to give you a quick rundown on how to shoot infrared film for your infrared photography assignment. So to start with your 35mm camera, you're going to need to put a filter over the camera's lens. So basically there's two types of filters you can use, and one would be your number 25 red filter, and the other one would be your number 80 or 72 filter, which is totally opaque. You cannot see through it, and so that brings something else into play when you're using this filter. This is probably the easier filters to use. And when I first got started in photography, we used to always have gel filters that were Kodak Ratten filters, and it was just the Kodak Ratten number 25 filters. So sometimes if you're ever at a thrift store or something and somebody donated a bunch of these, you could find like a whole pack of these Ratten filters and perhaps find the number 25 red in there, which is a gel filter. But the important thing is that you're going to need to find a filter that will actually screw onto your camera's lens, or get yourself a filter that fits the lens. And this has become a bit tricky, and I've learned that over 30 years of teaching, that students sometimes can't figure out which the correct size filter to get. And for example, if I look at this camera lens right now, this is a 50mm lens. So normally I guess you would just think in your head that it's a 50mm filter, but that's not what it takes. The 50mm that's written on here on the lens is actually the focal length of this lens. Now some lenses will actually tell you what size filter that it takes too, and the way the filter threads are designated on a camera lens is there's usually a circle with a line through it. So if you see a circle with a line through it on there followed by a millimeter, that will tell you that that's the correct size filter to get. This particular lens, the 50mm lens on this camera, takes a, let's see what size filter this is. This is a 52mm filter. And one of the ways you can also find out what size filter you have is if you have the lens cap for your camera's lens. Usually on the inside of the lens cap you can see what size filter it'll take. So example, this says 52mm, and there's actually a 52mm skylight filter on here. Or sometimes when you get a camera, if you got it from somebody, they would have a skylight filter on there, which is just actually to protect the lens. It's a good idea if you're buying a new camera to get yourself a filter like this to put on the camera's lens, just a clear UV filter. And what that will do is protect you from having to clean the lens a lot. You simply clean the filter, and if the filter gets, really scratched up or dirty, you can always replace that, and it keeps your lens clean. It's also good too if you ever drop your camera and it hits the front of the lens. A lot of times it'll just bend the filter and won't damage the lens. So that's like another little tip there. But so you need to find out what size the filter that you need to order or get for the camera is. Well, one way is you could just take your camera into the camera shop and have them fit it up with a filter. Word of caution though, when you do go to the camera shop, you need to know what the price range that you're going to pay is. I had a student go into a local camera shop and they ended up paying like $70 for a filter. And another student went there later to the same camera shop and he bought a filter for $8. They were both different filters, but it was the salesman that was in the camera shop, not necessarily the camera shop owners or the establishment, but the salesman had sold the one student the most expensive filter that they sell, and another salesman sold them the regular student kind of filter, which is a cheap filter, because they do have these filters that are just cheaply made, and then they have filters that are made in Germany that do cost $70, $80 a filter. So you only need a cheap filter for this assignment. So if you can find one for 20 bucks, that's kind of where you want to be. And B&H has a bunch of them, and you can look online for that. And the other thing, if you want to order one from B&H and you can't find out what size filter goes on your camera, is that you can actually measure it. If you get a millimeter ruler, you could put a millimeter ruler across there, and it'll tell you like what size filter that you need, and then you would know that to put one on there. So like this one says 52, And if we look over here, it just goes right to a little bit past 50, so that's 52. Now the filter sizes, it's pretty easy to guess with the ruler, because the filter sizes are a little bit distant, and they only come in certain sizes. Like the first one I usually find that students need is a 49 millimeter, then followed by a 52, then a 55, a 58. And once you get up in 62 is probably the biggest if you have a big, you know, massive lens. But those sizes are the ones that generally will fit on your cameras that you have. So by using a ruler, you can get the thread size, and then simply order that from B&H Photo and get yourself a good filter. Now this filter here, the number 72 filter, when used with infrared film, this filter is best used with real infrared film. So some of the films that you can use for this assignment, for example, the Ilford SFX200, creates an infrared effect when used with the red filter, but it's really not truly infrared film, but it will make the pictures look like infrared film. It has enough range in the film when used with this red filter, it'll create infrared effects. Some true infrared films is this FG film, and I'm not sure if this is still available, but it's a true infrared film that you could use with your camera. And you could use this filter, the 72 filter, with this film and create very dramatic results. I'm creating a second video that's going to go along with this video that will actually show you some examples of stuff I've done with infrared. And I shot my first roll of infrared in, I would say 1975, when I was in high school. We had a really good photography program there, and we were all using infrared film in school, color infrared actually, and developing E4 process, which was a color slide film process. But so, this film here is the Holy Grail, and it's not made anymore. Kodak discontinued it, but it's high-speed infrared, and you can find this on eBay, and it ranges anywhere. I actually just looked a little while ago to see if there was any of this on there, and it ranges in price from $20–$25 a roll to some people trying to get $100 a roll for it. And it is a cult item, so the people that love this film love it, and you know, you can't get it anymore. I wish I would have filled my freezer up with it when Kodak discontinued it, but at that point when I found out it was discontinued, it was already cleared off the shelves. People had bought it all up. So but if you could find this, sometimes, you know, somebody that you know is in photography might have a few rolls of this sitting in their freezer at home, or in their fridge. Now if you find a roll of this like in some garage sale, and somebody's had it sitting out in their attic, or you know, in their car trunk for years, it's probably no good. But you know, if you could find a roll of this that was stored properly, it gives you truly amazing results that you'll see when I go through the pictures. Now, when using the true infrared film, you actually need to load your camera in total darkness. So you're going to have to go into total darkness when you put the film into your camera. And when you would open up this box, the cartridge that's inside there, the plastic canister that your film spool is in, you can't actually even open that in the daylight. You have to open that up inside the dark room in total darkness, so that you don't want the infrared or light to go through the felt part where the film comes out. So that's why it has to be loaded into the camera in total darkness. And then this camera doesn't have it, but if you have a camera that has a little window back here, it's a good idea also to cover that window with a couple pieces of black electrical tape to keep the light from coming in and fogging the film in any way back there. So once the film is loaded in total darkness, then you would go out to take pictures. Now each roll will have its own starting point or starting ASA or ISO, but to be truthful, the way to get the best exposure would be if you had an infrared exposure meter, but you know, nobody has one of those. I don't have one, but so it's a kind of a guessing game at first to start. But for example, I know that this Kodak film, and the reason I know that is because I shot several hundred rolls of it when it was available, is that the ISO I usually shot this at was 200. So with 200 outside on a bright sunny day, I got tremendous results. This one here, I believe, has an ISO starting point of 820. And you know, maybe if you shoot one roll and bracket a little bit and make yourself some notes in a notebook, you could see which ones actually give you the best results for what you're looking for and making the best prints once you get into the darkroom. Something else to think about when you're going out and shooting is if you're shooting with one of these opaque filters, you need to go ahead and focus the camera first and then put the filter on, because you can't see through this. Same goes with meter reading. You need to know, if you're using an opaque filter, you need to know what the filter factor number is on it. And what the filter factor means is that's the amount of exposure that's lost by this filter that you have to compensate for in the camera. So if it was like a 2x thing, that would a 2x conversion, that would mean you've lost 2 stops of light by using this filter. It's generally 2 or 3 stops, so that would mean you would have to either open up that many stops, or in my case, I like to slow the shutter speed down. Always have the camera on a tripod, so if it was like at a 60th of a second when I didn't have the filter on, taking a meter reading, and I put the filter on, I'm losing 2 stops of light, so I would have to go from a 60th of a second to a 30th of a second to a 15th of a second. And then that would give me the correct exposure with that. When using a red rattan filter that you could see through, you'll actually be able to focus your camera through the lens and take the meter reading through the lens, which help you to make a really accurate exposure. You don't want to take the meter reading without the filter and then put the filter on. That would give you totally underexposed negatives. So something else to think about, and you can Google this, I doubt you can see this from here, but when you're using infrared film, there's actually an infrared focusing point on your lens, and you can also look in your camera's lens manual, and it'll show you. But there's a general little line. This one, it's off to the right hand side, so when I would focus my camera, like if I had it focused on 7 feet on the standard focusing line on the lens, what I would do before I would take the picture with infrared film is I would move it over to the infrared focusing mark, and then it might appear out of focus in your camera, but the infrared wavelengths of light are different than normal wavelengths, so your picture will be in focus. Generally, that's really important for things that are up close, but if you're taking pictures like, you know, huge landscapes and everything, and you're almost focused on infinity or down like that, and you have your lens stopped down, you know, below 8, I don't think you would have any problem just using your standard focusing and, you know, keeping the camera on a tripod. When you go back into the dark room after you've shot the roll of film, if you're going to shoot more than one roll of film, I took a trip out west once and took a bunch of infrared film and like out in the desert and stuff, and you know, you don't want to once you shoot one roll of film, what do? You want to take it out and change it. So it's best to have a changing bag with you, so you could actually put the camera into a film changing bag and change the film and put another roll of film in there, and you know, that would allow you to keep shooting. But once you're done, if you do that, you need to put the film back in the little canister that it comes in, and then you can go back into the dark room. Otherwise, you could just take your camera, you know, with you into the dark room and unload it there before you put it on the reel. So that's it for now for infrared film. And if you know, like this video, give me a thumbs up, and follow me on the YouTube channel, and you'll see some more videos. So I think that's it. Hope that helped. Bye.